Maybe we should just date and make everyone happy. Miles looked straight at me when he said it. That was the problem. He usually laughed afterward. This time, he didn't. Miles Carter had been my best friend for almost 6 years, which meant he knew things about me no one else did. He knew I hated pulp and orange juice. He knew I couldn't sleep unless the room was cold. He knew I ordered the same chicken sandwich every time we went to O'Malley's, even though I always spent 10 minutes pretending to read the menu. What he didn't know was that I'd been in love with him for most of those 6 years. At least, I was pretty sure he didn't. We met sophomore year of college when he borrowed my phone charger during a lecture and forgot to give it back for 3 weeks. After that, he just kept showing up. At my apartment, at my terrible retail job, at my mom's house for Thanksgiving when his flight got canceled. Somewhere along the way, he stopped feeling like a friend I'd made and started feeling like part of my life I couldn't picture losing. Which was exactly why I never told him. Miles was easy with people. He hugged his friends, leaned against them during movies, threw an arm around someone's shoulders without thinking. The first few times he did it to me, my heart tried to punch its way out of my chest. Eventually, I got better at pretending it meant nothing. Mostly, our friends had been calling us an old married couple for years. Miles always played along. Evan already knows he'd be the clingy one. Or, we'd never make it. He loads the dishwasher like a criminal. Everyone would laugh. I would too. It was safer that way. Turn it into a joke before anyone noticed I wanted it to be real. That Friday night started like 100 others. Miles showed up at my apartment carrying 2 six-packs and a paper bag that smelled like tacos. He kicked the door shut behind him, dropped everything on the counter, then looked at me with a tired smile. My date lasted 43 minutes. I checked the microwave clock. That's weirdly specific. I counted every painful second. He grabbed a bottle from the fridge and handed it to me before taking one for himself. She said I wasn't emotionally available. Were you? I bought chips and salsa. That's not an emotion. It's close. We ended up on the couch, shoulders touching, some action movie playing that neither of us watched. Miles complained about the date. I made fun of him. Normal. Comfortable. Dangerous in the quiet way it had always been. Then he glanced over. Not casually. His eyes stayed on mine long enough for my chest to tighten. You know what she asked me? I shook my head. If there was someone else. I tried to smile. Is there? Miles looked down at the bottle between his hands. For a second, neither of us moved. Then his knee pressed against mine, and he didn't pull away. People keep saying there's something between us, he murmured. I gave a short laugh because that was what I always did. People are bored. His eyes lifted back to mine. Maybe. Another pause. Longer this time. Or maybe we should just date and make everyone happy. I waited for the grin. The shoulder bump. The easy escape. It never came. Miles just kept looking at me, serious and strangely nervous. And that was the first time I realized the joke might not belong to either of us anymore. You are being weird. I finally managed. Miles leaned back against the couch, but his knee stayed against mine. Am I? Yes. I took a drink just to give myself something to do. My hand was steady enough. Barely. You usually make the married couple joke and then insult my dishwasher. Your dishwasher habits deserve criticism. There it was. The familiar smile. Small. Crooked. Safe. I let out a breath I had not realized I was holding. See? That is more like you. Miles looked toward the television, though neither of us had followed the movie for at least 20 minutes. Maybe that is the problem. My chest tightened again. What is? He rubbed his thumb over the label on his bottle. I joke about everything. His voice was quieter now. Then nobody knows when I am actually trying to say something. I stared at him. Miles was not the kind of person who talked like that. He could tell a room full of strangers an embarrassing story without blinking. But anything real usually got buried under sarcasm before it reached the surface. I tried to lighten it. That sounds like something your date would charge you for in therapy. He gave me a look. Not annoyed. Just disappointed that I had dodged. That somehow felt worse. You do it too. Do what? Make a joke every time I ask you something personal. I opened my mouth, then closed it. He was right, which was inconvenient. Miles shifted toward me, one arm resting along the back of the couch. Why have you not dated anyone in months? Work has been busy. Evan. The way he said my name made my stomach dip. Calm. Certain. Like he already knew I was lying and was giving me one chance to stop. I looked down at the coffee table. I have not met anyone I like. Anyone? I forced a shrug. Not really. The room went quiet again. On screen, a car exploded. Neither of us reacted. Miles reached for the last taco at the same moment I did. Our fingers touched against the foil. It should have been nothing. A normal accident. We had bumped shoulders, shared blankets, fallen asleep in the same room more times than I could count. But this felt different because he did not move his hand. Neither did I. His eyes dropped to our fingers, then slowly came back to mine. "You always do that," he murmured. "Do what?" "Freeze when I touch you." My throat went dry. "I do not." "You are doing it right now." I pulled my hand back too quickly and nearly knocked over my bottle. Miles caught it before it tipped, his other hand landing on my wrist. Warm. Firm. Careful. Easy. His thumb moved once against my skin, almost absent-mindedly. My pulse jumped under his fingers, and of course he felt it. His expression changed. Just slightly. The joking part of him disappeared. "Evan." I could barely breathe. "What?" Miles held my gaze for another second, then another. "Is there someone you are not telling me about?" "No," I answered too fast. Miles still had his hand around my wrist. His eyes narrowed slightly. That sounded convincing. "There is nobody." "Then why are you acting like I caught you hiding a body?" I tried to laugh, but nothing came out. His thumb was still resting over my pulse, and every second he kept it there made lying harder. "Maybe because you are interrogating me over tacos. I am asking one question. You are staring. You are avoiding it." The movie kept playing behind us, loud and pointless. I could hear the refrigerator humming from the kitchen. I could feel every place our knees touched. Miles glanced down at his hand, like he had only just realized he was still holding me. For a second, I thought he would let go. Instead, his grip softened. "Do I know him?" My stomach dropped. I looked away. That was enough. Miles went completely still. "I do." "You are making things up." "Evan." "What?" "Look at me." I should not have. I knew that. But I turned anyway. He was closer than I remembered, one arm stretched behind me along the couch, his face serious in a way that made my chest ache. "Is it someone in our friend group?" I shook my head. Technically true. Miles was not just part of my friend group. He was the center of it. "Someone from work?" "No, someone you met online." "Why does it matter?" That stopped him. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. "I do not know." He finally released my wrist, and the sudden absence of his hand felt worse than it should have. "Maybe I want to know who gets your attention when I do not." I stared at him. Miles looked away first. He reached for his bottle, found it empty, and stood too quickly. "I need water." He walked into the kitchen like he had somewhere urgent to be. I stayed on the couch, trying to make sense of what he had just said. "Maybe I want to know who gets your attention when I do not." Friends did not say things like that. Or maybe they did. Maybe I was doing what I always did, taking one strange sentence and building an entire life around it. From the kitchen, glass hit the counter harder than necessary. I got up and followed him. The space between the island and the sink was narrow. When I stepped beside him, his shoulder brushed mine, and neither of us moved. "Miles." He kept his eyes on the faucet. "Forget it. You cannot say something like that and tell me to forget it." He turned then, forcing me back against the edge of the counter without touching me. There was barely a foot between us. "Fine." His voice dropped. "People keep joking that we act like a couple. You laugh every time." I laughed too. His gaze moved over my face, searching. "But what if we are only laughing because neither of us knows what else to do?" My heart started pounding. I reached for the easiest escape. "What are you suggesting?" "That we file joint taxes." Usually, that would have worked. Miles would have rolled his eyes, called me an idiot. The tension would have broken. This time, he did not smile. He stepped half an inch closer. "No," a long pause. "I am suggesting we stop joking for 1 minute." I could not move. Neither could he. Then Miles looked directly at my mouth before meeting my eyes again. "Let us just try it." For a second, I honestly thought I had imagined it. Miles stayed in front of me, close enough that I could see the tiny crease between his eyebrows. His breathing had changed. So had mine. "Try what?" I managed, even though we both knew. His mouth twitched, but it was not a smile. "You really want me to say it?" "I want to know you know what you were saying." That landed harder than I expected. Miles looked down, one hand braced against the counter beside me. Not touching, just there. "I have been thinking about it." My chest tightened. "Since when?" He let out a quiet breath. "Long enough to feel stupid about it." I should have made another joke. That was what I did when things got too real. But nothing came. Miles lifted his eyes again. "One kiss," he murmured. "That is all. Then we know." "Know what?" "Whether everyone else is wrong." I stared at him. "And if they are not?" His expression shifted. Nervous. Honest. Then I guess we stopped pretending we do not notice. The room felt too small. The edge of the counter pressed into my back, but I barely felt it. Miles moved closer, slowly enough that I could have stepped away. I did not. His hand lifted, hesitated near my face, then dropped to my wrist instead. The same place he had touched before. His fingers settled lightly against my skin. My pulse jumped under them. "You are shaking," he whispered. "So are you." That almost made him laugh. Almost. His eyes moved to my mouth, then back to mine. I stopped breathing. He leaned in. Not much. Just enough that the space between us disappeared 1 inch at a time. My brain kept telling me to move. Forward or backward. Anything. But my body had apparently decided to become furniture. His nose almost brushed mine. His thumb shifted against my wrist. Then my phone started vibrating on the counter behind me. We both froze. The sound was absurdly loud in the kitchen. Miles closed his eyes for half a second and leaned his forehead against mine. "You have got to be kidding me." I let out a breath that sounded embarrassingly shaky. The phone kept buzzing. It might be important. At 11:30? My mother thinks every text is an emergency. He stepped back, and the sudden space between us felt cold. I grabbed the phone without looking away from him. It was a group message from our friends. A photo of Miles and me from the week before, asleep on opposite ends of my couch, with the caption, "Just get married already." My stomach dropped. Miles read it over my shoulder. Neither of us laughed. His hand found mine on the counter, fingers brushing mine before curling around them. This time, he held on. "Evan." His voice was quieter now. "If I kiss you, are you going to tell me tomorrow it was just a joke?" The question hit harder than the almost kiss. Miles was still holding my hand, waiting. I looked at our fingers, then back at him. "No," my voice came out quiet, but steady. "I would not call it a joke." Something in his face softened. He started to lean in again. Then the group chat exploded. 3 new messages. 2 laughing emojis. One from Jenna. "Seriously, are you two together, or what?" Miles let go first. Not fast. Just enough to remind me how close we had come. "They are going to keep doing this," I muttered. "They have been doing it for years." "Yeah, but now it feels different." His eyes stayed on mine. "Because it is different." Before I could answer, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 quick hits. Then a familiar voice from the hallway. "Evan, open up. I left my jacket here." I closed my eyes. "That is Jenna." Miles stepped back so quickly it made my chest sink. Not because he looked ashamed. More like he had been caught standing too close to something he was not ready to explain. I opened the door, and Jenna walked in without waiting. She spotted Miles in the kitchen, then looked at me, then at the untouched tacos on the counter. Her eyebrows lifted. "Interesting." "Do not," I warned. I did not say anything. She crossed the room and grabbed her denim jacket from the chair. "You both just look guilty." Miles folded his arms. "Guilty of what?" Jenna smiled like she had been waiting years for that question. "You tell me." The room went painfully quiet. She looked between us again, and her expression changed. Less teasing. More curious. "Wait. Did something actually happen?" My stomach dropped. Miles looked at the floor. That was all Jenna needed. "Oh my God. Nothing happened," I said too quickly. Her eyes snapped to mine. "Evan." "Jenna, seriously." She held up both hands. "Fine. I am leaving." At the door, she paused and glanced at Miles. "Just do not mess with him." The words were casual, but the warning underneath them was not. Miles went still. Jenna left before either of us could answer. The lock clicked behind her. I turned around. She is protective. She does not know what she is talking about. Miles stared at the closed door. Maybe she does. What is that supposed to mean? He rubbed a hand over the back of his neck. "You have known what you wanted for a long time, have you not?" I froze. "I never said that." "You did not have to." His voice was not angry. That made it worse. "And I am standing here asking to try something because one bad date made me question my entire life. That is not what this is." "How do you know?" I stepped closer. "Because you were thinking about it before tonight." Miles looked at me, but the certainty from earlier was gone. Thinking is not the same as being ready. My chest tightened. "So now you are backing out." He flinched. "I am trying not to hurt you." "By leaving?" He grabbed his jacket from the back of the couch. For 1 second, I thought he would walk straight past me. Instead, he stopped at the door and looked back. His face was tense, almost frustrated. "If I kiss you now, I need to know I am not doing it just because everyone else saw us before I did." Then he left. And for the first time in 6 years, the silence after Miles walked out did not feel comfortable. It felt like something had finally broken open. My phone lit up at 1:17 in the morning. Miles, are you awake? I stared at the message for almost a full minute before answering. Yes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. Then another message. Open the door. My heart started pounding before I even stood up. When I pulled the door open, Miles was in the hallway wearing the same jacket, hands shoved into the pockets, hair slightly messed up from the wind. He looked like he had spent the last 2 hours arguing with himself. You came back. Brilliant observation. He glanced past me into the apartment. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Miles walked to the living room, but did not sit. Neither did I. The space between us felt careful now, like one wrong sentence could send him back out the door. I am sorry, he started. For leaving? For making it sound like everyone else put this idea in my head. His eyes found mine. They did not. I folded my arms, mostly because I did not know what else to do with them. Then where did it come from? Miles let out a slow breath. Do you remember when you had the flu last winter? I blinked. That is your answer? You called me at 2 in the morning because you were out of medicine. I was half asleep. You called me instead of anyone else. He took a step closer. I drove across town, brought you soup, and stayed until you fell asleep. That was nice of you. Evan, I sat on your kitchen floor for 40 minutes because you kept insisting the tiles were colder than the couch. I almost smiled. I had a fever. You were ridiculous. His mouth twitched, then went serious again. But I remember looking at you and thinking I wanted to be the person you called. Every time. My chest tightened. Miles looked down at his hands. Then I spent months pretending that was normal best friend stuff. Maybe it was. It was not. The answer came fast. Certain. He moved closer again, stopping just in front of me. And tonight, when Jenna asked if something happened, I panicked because she saw it too quickly. His voice dropped. Not because I hated it. I held his gaze. What did you feel? Miles swallowed. For once, there was no joke waiting to rescue him. I wanted to kiss you. My pulse jumped. Before Jenna showed up? Before tonight. The room went still. How long before? He shook his head, almost embarrassed. I do not know. That is the problem. I keep going back through everything and wondering when it stopped being a joke for me. His fingers brushed mine, tentative this time. When I did not pull away, he let them stay. I left because I thought distance would make this feel less real. His hands slowly closed around mine. It did not. I looked down at our joined hands. What did it feel like? Miles stepped closer until our shoulders almost touched, like I was walking away from something I had already wanted for too long. My throat went tight. He squeezed my hand once. I was not joking, Evan. His eyes held mine, nervous and open, and I do not want to go back to normal. For one stupid, hopeful second, I thought that was enough. Miles did not want to go back to normal. Neither did I. His hand was still wrapped around mine, warm and steady, and the space between us felt smaller than it had all night. Then he looked toward the couch. The same couch where we had watched movies, eaten takeout, argued over playlists, and fallen asleep during Sunday football more times than I could count. Something in his face changed. What? I asked. Miles rubbed his thumb across my knuckles, but his eyes stayed on the room around us. What happens if we get this wrong? My chest tightened. We already know it is not nothing. That is not what I mean. He let go of my hand and took a step back. Not far. Somehow, it still felt like a mile. This place is half my life. You are half my life. He gestured toward the kitchen. I know where you keep the good coffee. Your mom texts me when you forget to call her. Your sister sends me birthday cards. A nervous laugh slipped out of him. What if we put a label on this and suddenly every normal thing becomes complicated? I tried to stay calm. You just told me you do not want normal. I do not. His eyes snapped back to mine. But I do not want to lose this either. There it was. The fear underneath everything. The same fear that had kept me quiet for years. I should have understood. Instead, all I heard was hesitation. So what are you saying? Miles dragged a hand through his hair. I am saying maybe we slow down. My stomach dropped. Right. Evan. No, that makes sense. I turned toward the kitchen, pretending I needed to clear the empty bottles. You came back, said all of that, and now you want to slow down. Very clear. That is not fair. Neither was leaving the first time. Silence filled the room. I hated the sharpness in my own voice, but I could not pull it back. Miles stepped closer. I am not regretting it. Nothing even happened. That is exactly why I am scared. I looked at him. His jaw was tight, eyes tired. If I kiss you, I know it is not going to stay one kiss in my head. I know I am going to think about tomorrow and next week, and whether you are going to look at me differently when this stops being easy. My anger faded almost immediately. Miles, I already look at you differently. He went still. I had not meant to say it like that. So openly. His expression softened, but the fear did not leave. How long? I looked away. Long enough. That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give without making this worse. He stared at me for a moment, and I watched him misunderstand every second of my silence. You think I am too late, he murmured. What? You have already figured out what this means. I am still trying to catch up. He reached for his jacket again. Panic hit me so fast my chest hurt. Do not leave. Miles stopped with his hand on the door. He looked back, waiting. I wanted to tell him everything. That I had loved him quietly for years. That losing our routine scared me too. That I would rather risk change than keep pretending. But the words stuck behind my teeth. And after a long, painful pause, Miles nodded like my silence had answered for me. That is what I thought. No. The word came out before Miles could open the door. He froze with his hand still on the knob. I crossed the room fast enough to nearly hit the coffee table. That is not what I thought. Miles looked back at me, tired and guarded. Then what did you think? I thought if I told you the truth, I would lose you. His hand slipped from the door. Neither of us moved after that. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Evan. No, let me finish. Please. I wiped my palms against my jeans. You keep acting like I figured this out before you. I did not. I just got better at hiding it. His eyes stayed on mine. Hiding what? There was no safe answer left. No joke. No way to make it smaller. You. Miles went completely still. I forced myself to keep going. I stopped dating because every guy felt like a bad version of someone I already knew. I laughed when people called us a couple because the alternative was admitting I liked hearing it. My voice shook. And every time you touched me, I told myself you were just being you. He took one slow step toward me. How long? Years. The word barely made it out. Miles stared at me like he was trying to rebuild every memory at once. Why did you never tell me? Because you were my best friend. I still am. That was the problem. I looked down at the floor. You were the one person I could not afford to lose. The room went quiet. Not empty. Just full of everything we had avoided saying. Miles moved closer until his shoes were inches from mine. His hand lifted, paused, then wrapped around my wrist. Gentle. Familiar. Look at me. I did. His expression had changed. The fear was still there, but something steadier sat underneath it now. I thought you were quiet because you regretted tonight. I thought you kept leaving because you did. A small breath left him, almost a laugh. We are terrible at this. Apparently. His thumb moved once over my pulse. I am scared. Me too. I do not know what label fits. Then we do not need one tonight. Miles searched my face. But I do need you to know I was not curious because people teased us. He stepped closer. I noticed when you stopped dating. I hated when you talked about moving to Seattle for that job. I kept showing up here because this is where I wanted to be. My chest tightened. Why did you never say anything? Because you were my best friend. That finally pulled a shaky laugh out of me. Miles smiled too, but only for a second. Then his fingers slid down and found mine. He laced them together slowly, giving me time to pull away. I did not. I do not want to pretend this is normal tomorrow, he murmured. Good. And I do not want to walk out again. I squeezed his hand. Then stay. Miles held my gaze, standing close enough that his forehead almost touched mine. No more jokes. Not about this. His eyes dropped to my mouth, then came back up. Then tell me what this is. I took a breath. It is real. Miles nodded once. Yeah. His hand tightened around mine. It feels real to me too. The first thing Miles did was laugh. Not loudly. Just one quiet breath against the space between us, like he had been holding it all night. Real, he repeated. That is terrifying. A little. You are not helping. I am trying to be honest. His forehead finally touched mine. Neither of us moved. For once, there was no joke waiting to save us. No friend knocking on the door. No phone buzzing on the counter. Just Miles holding my hand like he had made a decision and wanted me to feel it. Can I kiss you now? He murmured. My chest tightened. You are asking after all that. I am trying to grow as a person. Very brave. His smile came back, soft and nervous. Evan. Yes. The kiss was brief. Careful. Nothing dramatic. But when he pulled away, He stayed close, and his hand never left mine. That mattered more than anything. We spent the rest of the night on the couch, talking in circles about what came next. Neither of us had a perfect answer. Miles did not suddenly understand everything. I did not stop being scared. We just stopped pretending fear meant no. Around 2 in the morning, he looked at me and rubbed his thumb over my knuckles. Dinner tomorrow. We eat dinner all the time. Not like that. Like what? He gave me a look. A date, Evan. I tried not to smile too hard. You should probably ask properly. Miles sat up straighter, still holding my hand. Would you like to go on a date with me tomorrow night? Where? Seriously? I have standards. You eat gas station hot dogs. That is not relevant. He laughed, and this time the sound felt lighter. Fine. Italian place on Clark. 7 o'clock. I let him wait for half a second. Okay. The next evening, we almost canceled twice. Not because we did not want to go. Because getting ready for a real date with your best friend turns out to be deeply embarrassing. Miles texted me 3 different shirt options. I changed mine 4 times and denied all of it. When he showed up at my door, he looked exactly like himself. Dark jacket, clean sneakers, hair still refusing to cooperate. Somehow that made my stomach flip more than anything else could have. He held out his hand in the hallway. Too much. I looked at it, then at him. Definitely. I took it anyway. At the restaurant, we ran into Jenna near the bar. Her eyes dropped to our joined hands. Then she looked at me. Then Miles. Finally, Miles groaned. Do not make this weird. You two handled that without my help. She hugged me, squeezed Miles on the shoulder, and walked away with the most satisfied smile I had ever seen. I expected Miles to let go after she left. He did not. He kept holding my hand all the way to the table. Weeks later, our routine looked almost the same. Takeout on Fridays. Bad movies. Arguments over the dishwasher. The difference was smaller than I expected and bigger than I knew how to explain. Miles sat closer now. He kissed my temple when he walked past. Sometimes he reached for my hand without looking. And every time, I still noticed. We did not ruin the friendship. We did not become different people overnight. We just stopped using the word friends to hide everything else. Looking back, that night did not create something new between us. It only made us brave enough to name what had already been there.